Story 1. I wasted time on the wrong people when I could have spent it on myself and my future. Story 2. In your 20s, have fun, date, travel, and save whatever you can for retirement. Story 3. Being a serial monogamist instead of taking a more casual approach to dating is strange. The past few years, since I was widowed at 37, have been the longest period of my life that I have been single, dating back to when I first started dating in junior high. Story 4. I didn't leave the toxic marriage because I didn't understand how narcissists work. Now I am alone and separated from my children. Story 5. I was so suicidal that I never thought I would reach 40. Now I am here with no plan and a future I did not expect. I am sorry you are feeling this way. If you are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are elsewhere, please contact your local emergency services or crisis line. If you want to talk, I am here to listen. Story 6. I should have read more. I never should have given my records away when I moved out of state. Story 7. I used to be uptight and shy about dating, my clothing choices, and social gatherings. The anxiety I felt back then was palpable, but now I do not care. Story 8. I did not listen to people who said lift with your legs, not your back. Story 9. In your 20s, prioritize two things. Secure a well-paying career and begin saving for retirement as soon as possible. If you do these early, you will set yourself up financially for life. When your finances are in order, life is much easier and more enjoyable. Story 10. I was not confident enough. All the women I thought were my friends wanted to have sex with me. They were just as shy as I was. I learned this later in life from them. Story 11. I did not graduate college at 22. I graduated at 25 because I did not take any major seriously or have a plan in high school, and I was not employed throughout my 20s. Story 12. I married at 20 and had children at 21, 23, and 25. I regret worrying so much about whether everything would turn out all right. My marriage remains solid, and my children have grown into fine adults. Story 13. Drinking too much and not prioritizing life goals and gains. Remaining stationary in certain job roles for too long. Investing in people and relationships that ultimately did not matter. Story 14. I didn't wear earplugs at concerts. Thankfully, I have avoided serious tinnitus, but I have distorted hearing that ruins the sound of certain notes and makes certain kinds of music unlistenable now. Story 15. First, start contributing to a 401k retirement plan or a similar retirement account as early as possible, even if it is a small amount. Contribute regularly. Can be the difference between worrying about retirement as it looms and retiring early without worry. I did not even know what a 401k retirement plan was at the time and had no idea about the power of compound returns. It all seemed so far away that thinking about retirement felt like a joke. Second, do not waste time on people you know in your gut are not right for you. Your number one criterion should not be whether they are hot, rich, smart, or a great musician or artist. It should be whether they are kind, a good person, and whether you connect with them immediately. If they are not kind, everything else will not matter for long, and you will likely waste time and effort that could be put to better use. I wasted a lot of time chasing the wrong people. Third, do not neglect your health because those problems will catch up with you later. It is not that hard. Brush your teeth. Lift with your legs instead of your back or get help, and drink sparkling water instead of soda and high-sugar blended drinks all day. There are many more options for healthier drinks these days. Fourth, develop multiple hobbies. You will need many interests later in life to avoid boredom, and it is easier to pick them up earlier even if you are not good at them. Try many things to see what sticks. I used to think mountain biking sounded awful, but friends made me try it, and by my late 20s I was mountain biking 6 or 7 days a week on an actual mountain. Story 16. I was very poor in my 20s. I'm in my late 30s now and I have a good amount of disposable income, but I am starting to feel more tired and sore. I wish I had had this money back then so I could have enjoyed myself more. My younger self would have loved being able to go to any theme park I wanted every month without worrying about money. Story 17. Take better care of my body. Understand that if I can only have fun when I am drinking or using drugs, I do not truly enjoy the activities. Story 18. I was putting too much thought into what my fellow 20-somethings were doing. It is a crazy time for most people of that age, but the added pressure of listening to the sage advice of someone only 23 is maddening. All my lifelong friends are either dead, in jail, or in rehab. Story 19. A lot has happened, but those experiences made me who I am. I am 64 and cannot believe I have reached this age. I feel like I have won, no matter what happens to me. Story 20. I am a 32-year-old man. I went to college, earned a degree, found a good job, got married, and bought a house. Later, I purchased 20 acres, built a home on it, and sold the first house. My only debt is my mortgage. Life is good. Story 21. Here is my list for your 20s to avoid regrets. 1. Start a career that pays well or has strong earning potential and begin building experience. 2. Find an exercise routine that works for you and is sustainable long-term. Create lasting healthy habits, but do not spend all your time exercising. 3. Allow time for fun that fits you. Stay out late occasionally, travel, make friends, and socialize. Learn a sustainable balance between work and play. 4. Live within your means. Avoid unnecessary debt for expensive cars and luxury items. Learn to enjoy simpler and less expensive things. 5. If you tend to be insensitive, cultivate empathy. If you tend to be a pushover, practice assertiveness. Becoming a good person takes time, so start early. Story 22. I went out too much. I wasted every weekend chasing a good time, drinking from day into night with glorified acquaintances from Friday through Monday. Then I would be severely depressed until Wednesday, when I began to come around and the amnesia about the aftermath would take hold again. I could have used the time to develop a skill or qualification, gain more experience, travel, and, more importantly, spend time with people who are no longer here. Story 23. I am glad people can share this with the younger generation. Thank you. Now we can learn. Story 24. I grew up in a place with a low cost of living and a low quality of life. I moved away in my late 20s. I should have worked hard and saved every nickel at around 21 or 22, and moved then. Moving to a great place with a high cost of living is not easy, but it is much easier. When you are young, at 22, do you really care if you live in a rundown place with 3 roommates if you are right on the beach? At 30, you will not want to do that. You can make much more money in a high cost of living city, so get there quickly while you are young and do the work early. Story 25. I thought I was authentic. I was just following a blueprint set out before me. Live your own life, otherwise you will be living someone else's and not even realize it. Story 26. I regret being with the woman I was seeing for most of my 20s. It took time and distance to realize how manipulative she could be. Story 27. I ended up mothering my ex. He was an absolute man-child, and that put me off relationships for life. Story 28. I didn't start investing earlier. Even small monthly contributions are worthwhile. It's even more important now. Story 29. I left bad workplaces sooner, changed my career when the job market was better, and learned to perfect my curriculum vitae. I stopped being a people pleaser and started speaking up. Story 30. If you can do 2 things, find a well-paying job and get into good shape. Drop negative friends. Seek positive, supportive people who reinforce healthy behavior and support mental health. Story 31. I went to college instead of buying a house. Now my student loan payment is as large as my mortgage. Story 32. Not investing in Amazon, Google, Apple, and Microsoft or buying Bitcoin when I had the chance. Story 33. It was an awesome time. I lived on campus and depended on my parents' money. I smoked marijuana, studied, got high, and had sex with my girlfriend. I went away for spring break and Christmas break and spent most summers traveling to exotic places. Then I graduated, started graduate school right away, and kept the party going. After finishing graduate school, I got a sweet, cushy job, and here I am. Literally 0 regrets. Story 34. I powered through dental school to become a dentist. I should have dropped out. Story 35. In no particular order. Smoking. Drinking too much. Not exercising enough. Spending too much time pursuing women who did not feel the same way about me. Failing to realize that some friendships have an expiration date. Not taking advantage of opportunities to travel. That's just off the top of my head. Story 36. I should have made more of an effort to keep in contact with my parents and older family members. In your 20s, you barely understand that they are not immortal. You might skip family gatherings or not make much of an effort to talk to them when you are there. Once they are gone, that last conversation might never happen. Story 37. I lost them to relationships with toxic, manipulative, narcissistic, and abusive women because I did not think I was worth more. Story 38. I entered a relationship with a toxic person. I learned that you cannot change people. I have few memories from ages 23 to 28 due to severe depression and regret. Story 39. I did not drink enough water or take better care of my body. My 30s hurt just as much as everyone says they do. Story 40. I am 57 now and have no regrets. I had a fantastic time in my 20s. I went to some brilliant clubs and raves, and I still listen to that music. Story 41. Does 35 count as an older person on Reddit? Definitely not asking for me. Story 42. I have not dated enough. I wasted time on the wrong people. I was not saving money. Story 43. I did not start saving for retirement early enough before I had a child. Story 44. My biggest mistake was not investing any money. My 20s were generally a blast, but I probably should have been a bit more serious about my career and saving. Now I am behind the 8 ball and will have to work longer than I would like. Story 45. Everyone probably has some regrets. I partied hard in my 20s and had a blast. My career got off to a slow start as a result. I am sure there are cases where the opposite happened. Story 46. I took on too much student loan debt when I attended a private graduate school because it was in the location I wanted, but the school misled everyone about the earning potential for graduates. I am 6 months away from finishing payments on a loan I have been paying $1,100 a month for the past 20 years. It has felt like being an indentured servant and has had a tremendous impact on me and my family. Story 47. I did not save for retirement earlier. I am in my 40s now, and time passes faster than you realize. Story 48. I regret wasting my time at university. I focused more on partying and gaming. Story 49. Not one thing. First, I chose to go to university instead of buying the 25,000 Canadian dollar triplex I lived in. Second, I chose university instead of working or spending time with my grandfathers, who both passed before I turned 25 years old. Family and home are most important. Story 50. Not saving money, being self-conscious, and wasting my youth and good looks. Story 51. I wasn't saving, I was buying stupid stuff. Makeup is not worth the money. A few basic items are enough. Nails are also a waste of money. I don't know anyone who has beautiful nails. They all have these evil, witch-like nails. I don't regret having my child later. Partied a lot. It was the best time. I would do it again, but instead of buying clothes I didn't wear, I could have partied more. Now I'm 40 and calmer. Parties have made me tired and have not made me happy for the last 10 years. I regret that I didn't spend more time with my best friend. She has passed away. I would travel more. I did travel, but it was still not enough. Story 52. Not wearing sunscreen every day and actively avoiding the sun. Story 53. I am not savvy with finances and do not understand how important it is to think about the future. Story 54. I was in the Air Force, traveling the world, surfing and having a blast. Story 55. Nothing. I would go through all the craziest things once again, but unfortunately I cannot. Story 56. I drank too much. I should have spent more time having fun with friends instead of working. I played sports to stay active. I wish I had hooked up with more women and pursued the women I wanted rather than only those I felt I could get. Story 57. I drank way too much. I should have married my college girlfriend, too. Story 58. I did not invest in stocks or real estate, and I should never have gotten a credit card. I should have learned to live on 2/3 of my salary at the time. Partying was fun, but now I am too far behind to catch up. Life certainly takes over after the age of 21. Story 59. I have been damaging my finances by not saving. Had I saved and invested all of my money instead of spending it on unnecessary expenses, I would be in a very good financial position right now. Story 61. I sort of wish I had changed my line of work to a job in information technology sooner, because I would have more savings and a higher salary now. I also liked my original discipline, and it was fun to work in a real engineering job rather than in computer science. 2. Travel more and start earlier. 3. Care less and stop wasting time on people who never cared much for me. 4. Develop more hobbies and interests and play fewer video games. 5. Learn about health sooner, a proper diet, regular exercise, and taking care of myself. 6. Say yes to things I do not feel like doing at the time, even if you do not want to, go do it. Most of those things you will end up liking, and very few will be a waste of time. I do this now, and I accidentally learned many activities I enjoy, such as scuba diving, paddleboarding, wakeboarding, and surfing. 7. There are probably many more things, but listen to other people's experiences too. Story 61. Accepting what I had would be what I have. Reread that. Story 62. If I could go back and tell my college self, no one cares as much as you think. Stop worrying and take chances. Ask her out. Who cares if she says no? At least you put yourself out there. I spent much of my undergraduate feeling sorry for myself for not meeting the social milestones my peers had. I had great grades, close friends, and was very involved on campus as the president of a large student organization, yet I was on the verge of suicide because I could not begin a relationship. Sounds so foolish now when I type it out. Those days, though, helped me become who I am today, and I prefer this version of myself. Story 63. Partying too much and not focusing on what really matters. Story 64. I am not going to therapy, at least not to become more emotionally mature and aware. Story 65. All the alcohol, drugs, and unprotected sex. I regret everything else. Jeremy Renner's character in House. He died. Story 66. I did not travel enough. I could have traveled more even on a budget, but I did not. Story 67. Not much. My advice is to trust your gut. Your soul knows what you want to do. Story 68. I wasted time on video games and overeating to the point of obesity. I was not living life or enjoying it to the fullest. Story 69. I do not really have regrets, but it seems that many people regret working too much, staying in the same job or role for far too long, or accepting their life and not changing anything, such as remaining in a mediocre relationship. Story 70. Not buying Bitcoin in 2012. Avoided exercise until I was 32. Spent more time with my mom when she was healthier. Forgot to take more pictures of my friends' hangouts. Memories start to blur eventually, and the very few pictures are windows to past joy. Story 71. Not buying Bitcoin in 2012. Avoided exercise until I was 32. Spent more time with my mother when she was healthier. Did not take enough pictures of my friends' hangouts. Memories eventually start to blur, and the very few pictures are windows to past joy. Story 72. I regret that I focused my dating life on sex instead of getting to know the women I persuaded to go on dates with me. Late in my 20s, I decided to focus on getting to know each person during a date rather than trying to make them aroused. Not only did the dates become much better experiences, but the very next woman I dated long-term became my wife. Story 73. For 4 years, I served in the military, learning a skill that set me up for the rest of my working career. Story 74. I could have earned a Master of Business Administration or learned jiu-jitsu. Instead, I spent most nights for years partying with friends. Life is short. Have some fun, but invest your time in what will matter for the rest of your life, not just the rest of the night. Story 75. I took a job after my master's degree that seemed like a dream. I was fired 3 months later. The person who held the job before me was a senior associate and had created a culture of mistrust, and I was innocent and naive about how this affected me and my work. I was not professional or careful enough. This led to months of confusion about my life direction. God was kind and brought people into my life who helped me find a way forward. I probably worried my wife a lot. We were newly married and I looked like a failure, career-wise, right out of the gate. She was so patient. I will always be grateful. Story 76. I spent the first 2 years of college drinking heavily and chasing relationships that were wrong for me, blatantly ignoring their red flags. I eventually got clean and raised my grades. I started 2 acclaimed literary magazines and published several short stories, but I wish I had been that devoted earlier in my college career. Story 77. I wasted my early prime years in my 20s in a toxic relationship and marriage. I am 27 and now divorced. Ages 22 to 26 would have been the best times of my life if I had not been in that situation. So much time wasted, exhaustion and trauma. Story 78. I wasted so much time dating rather than trying to find someone I love. Story 79. I wish I had set better boundaries and would leave a company when something made me unhappy. I have traveled to 63 countries, which I am happy about. It was amazing. I was always selfish with my time, and I do not regret it. I am good at setting boundaries and managing relationships. Bring people into your life but manage those relationships properly. Have fun. Story 80. I wish I had had more sexual partners and explored my sexuality. Story 81. I'd avoid all hard drugs. They're just a waste of money and damaging to the body and mind. I'm relatively sharp despite this, but I wonder what an unibus brain would be like. Story 82. I spent the entirety of my 20s with someone I knew would never want to marry me. I held out, hoping they would change their mind. I wish I had accepted this sooner and ended the relationship when I realized they would never propose. I wish I had spent more time casually dating and focusing on myself, my goals, and my future rather than on a relationship that would not work long-term. Story 83. I tried to play it safe by chasing stable, high-earning careers when I would have benefited more from something adventurous. I confused applause from others with self-satisfaction. I cared too much about friendships at the expense of my own values. This is important. You can have strong friendships that still end for many reasons. If you choose your career, where you live, and how you live based on those friendships, you can be left with nothing. Story 84. Instead of focusing on my life and career, I spent my 20s putting them on hold to help older family members. Story 85. They were wild, formative years during which I met many people, began to understand what I want in a good friend and how to be one, learned much about myself and the person I want to be, and grew into who I am now in my 30s. I do not regret a thing, good or bad. Story 86. Not breaking up with toxic girlfriends caused my mental health to deteriorate. My 20s were a wild ride. Story 87. I have not invested enough in friendships, and now I have very few friends in my 30s. Story 88. I wish I had never signed up for a credit card in college. It began a fraught relationship with credit and money that has lasted for decades. I did some things right, but I also made many mistakes, and using credit irresponsibly was a major one. Story 89. I worried too much about the wrong things. I wish I had followed my dream of becoming an engineer. I had such low self-esteem. Now I realize I could have succeeded. I missed many great adventures and wish I had been braver. Your 20s and 30s are the best years of your life because you have your health and energy. Be brave, follow your dreams, and do not be afraid to love. Story 90. I wish I had gotten in better shape, had more sex, learned more, and generally tried harder. Story 91. I lacked confidence and did not try to enjoy my life. I missed opportunities in my 20s. I was terrified and took few risks because of the severe consequences of failure. I am still afraid now. It is mentally suffocating. Story 92. She was a childhood acquaintance. We reconnected by chance. We went out for drinks. She started dancing, but I did not. She sat at the bar. I joined her, and she rested her hand on my leg. She stared longingly at me, and I became bashful. I should have gone in for a kiss. Story 93. I didn't take my finances seriously. I'm paying for it now. Pun intended. Story 94. I wasted too much time on people who did not care about me, especially when I had family who truly cared. Story 95. Making fun of people who bought Bitcoin instead of taking their advice. Story 96. The road is never easy, but do your best to enjoy the ride. Sounds a little trite, but at 65 that has served me well. I regret being born in the wrong decade. Story 97. Spending money on things instead of experiences. I chased the wrong career for too long, mainly because I had invested so much time and energy into it already. I did not work at finding a life partner. You must put in the effort to present your best self to others. Story 98. I should have traveled or holidayed more and spent time getting stoned. Story 99. Invest smart and start working for yourself. You don't want to make someone else rich with your sweat. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.